So this next segment is an update on what's going on with the Lubofsky case. So it was, let me go to the, go ahead and, wait one second. Go ahead and cast to my screen. I don't know if you can see this too well, but received on December 26, 2018 by the Department of Public Health. It's the Guam Board of Medical Examiners. They're the ones who received this. It was a complaint against Dr. Shishin Miyagi with the Seventh-day Adventist Clinic, who is a licensed doctor on Guam. And this was filled out by David Lubofsky, the father of Asher Dean Lubofsky, who died last year. He says, my son, age 5, died October 31, 20. I cannot even imagine what it must have been for him to write this out. But my son, age 5, died October 31, 2018, 2 days after an annual full physical by Dr. S. Miyagi at SDA. The problem is that Dr. Miyagi never did a physical. He discussed height and weight. He quickly looked in my son's pants without checking. He never once picked up the stethoscope or checked breathing or stomach, etc. I clearly also reported to the doctor that my son was hoarse, on and off fever, and threw up when eating. I told him I gave him fever meds when he said no fever now. In frustration, I said, can you at least check him? And he looked in his throat and ears. Imagine that a full annual physical of a 5-year-old that is also coincidentally, and then it goes to the next page, one second. The same day as I had to ask the doctor to check him, it's an annual physical. He sent us home and Asher was sick. The physical was October 29, 2018. To make matters worse, after Asher passed away, I requested and received the SDA records. I was astonished to see that the record indicated that he did the full exam. The record he signed is false. See attached, he never did the things he claimed. He was only with us for 15 minutes or so. Dr. Miyagi signed a false record. This is very important to some of the information we're going to bring to you. I had a meeting with SDA a week after Asher passed to convey my concerns. They told me they would investigate, but it appears that instead the doctor was allowed to either fix the file or he lied from the beginning. It's our contention that if he had done the full physical or even picked up his stethoscope, our son Asher may have had a fighting chance. He died from a viral infection, generalized. The physician assistant who saw us the next day, October 30, reported that Asher was using secondary muscles to breathe, hoarseness, fever, etc. If Dr. Miyagi did his job on October 29, 24 hours earlier, would he not hear that Asher had labored breathing during the physical or the hoarseness? This is further evidence that no physical was done and the medical records are false of the actions he took on October 29. I have been a patient for 30 years at SDA with 5 kids who have been seen there. I know what goes into a physical. Thank you, David Lubofsky.
Can I just state, I used to be a certified biller and coder. When a doctor does their example,
I met you at a PMC, right?
Yes,
PMC?
yes.
Yeah.
When a doctor does a physical exam or any kind of exam or intake, when that medical record is done, when they're done with the medical record and it gets placed in the bin, if that doctor takes that medical record and is going to make an addendum or a change, they have to initial and they have to put the date and the time. If they are adding anything in, and they do have to put, because it is a medical record, is a law, it's used. You can take that record and bring it to court. I forget the term. There's a term for that.
Okay.
It's the law. That record is law.
Yeah. We're actually going to see it in the physician's practice.
No, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Because if the doctor takes back the record and is going to add anything in that record, he has to state that.
Huh.
That is the law.
And yeah, well, thank you for adding that in, because that's very important in a case like this. Because, well, let's just hear more about this. So 5 months later, it takes 5 months for the Guam Board of Medical Examiners to respond to Mr. Lubofsky. And they apparently have an investigation, etc., right?
From what I understand, it's an investigation on how to just like crush this guy.
Well, check this out. So, dear Mr. Lubofsky, this is in reference of your complaint dated December 26, 2018 and received December 26, 2018 by the Guam Board of Medical Examiners. After further review and investigation, the board at this time has no findings of violation of the Physicians Practice Act, Public Law 24-208, concerning this complaint, and therefore recommendation to close further discussion. If you have any questions, you may contact the Guam Board of Medical Examiners at 735-7408 or 11, which is BS because no one ever answers that phone. Respectfully, Nathaniel Berg, the chairperson. Now, Nathaniel Berg is a medical doctor. He is the owner of Guam Radiology. They have several contracts throughout the government, the private sector. They have contracts with SDA Clinic, just to ring some bells in everyone's head right now. He has contracts with SDA Clinic. Now, God bless you.
Thank you.
God bless you. Oh man, I really hope you don't have what I had. So this is what Mr. Lubofsky wrote back. It was disheartening for us to hear that the Guam Medical Licensing Board made a decision on our complaint public regarding Dr. Miyagi before letting us know first or clarifying the complaint issues. Very unprofessional, but at the same time, it's expected as the lawsuit hit the news and they need to help circle the wagons and help with the narrative. We are not surprised that the board would find no findings of violations of the Physicians Practice Act, as the board would then have to justify why they licensed Dr. Miyagi to begin with. Pay attention to that point because it's very important as we go over the Physicians Practice Act. The board, under the leadership of Dr. Berg, has unequivocally stated that they will license doctors who only meet minimal requirements. They have also licensed doctors who have a history of malpractice. Guam is known by doctors off island as the place to go to with low malpractice insurance and easy to get licensed for those doctors that can't work in other places. The doctors of Guam have also made it near impossible to sue them if you are poor. They have lowered their malpractice rates to benefit themselves and made it so that you do not have a fair board to complain to, as the medical licensing board members have many serious conflicts of interest to make a decision on these cases. Well, cast off my screen, Sheldon, sorry. So I just didn't want people to see. Anyway. So. Hold on 1 second. So Mr. Lubofsky asked for an appeal of the decision because what happened was when the Guam Board of Medical Examiners was reviewing the complaint by Mr. Lubofsky, they never once asked Mr. Lubofsky to testify. They never once called them to clarify any issues. They looked at records and based their decisions on records that Mr. Lubofsky had alleged were falsified records. Yes, so defeated the entire purpose of the complaint to rely solely on records that were alleged to have been falsified. They didn't even look at that. So he appeals the decision, and then the Guam Board of Medical Examiners refers the matter to the Attorney General's office and receives a response from the AG on August 22nd this year. It's just a few days ago. Let's go to the screen. The Guam Board of Medical Examiners has asked me to reply to your May 20, 2019 email to the board sent through Ms. Myrna Leon Guerrero of the Health Professionals Licensing Office. First, the board and my office wish to again extend our deepest sympathies and condolences to you and your family. You have requested a point-by-point reason and justification for the board's decision not to pursue disciplinary action against Dr. Shishin Miyagi's license with respect to the care and treatment of your son. The board regrets that its answer is unlikely to satisfy you. The board considered all available documentary evidence, including your complaint and the medical records. The board also communicated with all medical personnel who had immediate knowledge of the relevant facts underlining your complaint against Dr. Miyagi. Well, let's stop right here. So all of the documents, meaning the medical documents that Mr. Lubofsky alleges were falsified by Dr. Miyagi. And then all of the witnesses on the medical staff, well, that would be Dr. Miyagi's subordinates, his colleagues, the people who continue to employ him front desk. Yep.
Medical records.
So, I mean, beyond sharing the evidence the board considered and the witnesses with whom it communicated, it is inappropriate to inquire into the thought processes of the individual board members who voted on whether there was a violation of Physicians Practice Act that should be prosecuted. Furthermore, the board is disinclined to divulge any more of its thought processes than is necessary, lest the parties in your lawsuit against the medical personnel and institutions that treated your son attempt to use the board's decision not to prosecute to influence decision makers. Very tricky ground we're treading right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have inquired how board members mitigated their own conflicts of interest to come up with these decisions fairly. I am familiar with some of your writings on this subject that you have posted to the internet. I do not know if any of the board members are. Although you are entitled to this, that's okay. All right. Let's just stop right there.
Who the fuck wrote this?
Robert Weinberg.
That's exactly what I was about to ask you. Who wrote this?
It's Robert Weinberg. Robert Weinberg is the assistant AG who wrote this on behalf of Attorney General Levin Camacho. Now, the Assistant Attorney General isn't legally wrong. And this, again, this is a situation where our senators have done something in the past that favors a class of people over the rest of the people of Guam. So I sent you guys earlier tonight, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I want to share this with everybody.
Shall I go on my screen?
I know I sent it to myself. Hold on. Oh no, that's the wrong email. Right? Yeah, it's the public law.
It's on screen.
Thank you. I'm gonna open it here so I can review it at the same time. So this is Public Law 24-208. It's the Physicians Practice Act that's being noted in this whole thing. It was passed on May 13, 1998. Governor Carl Gutierrez sent a note to the legislature saying that the Physicians Practice Act, authored by the late Senator Eduardo Cruz, was passed into law. Signed by the governor, right? These are the authors: E.J. Cruz, J.C. Salas, L.F. Casper Barr, and all others. This was back when the legislature was a 21-member body. It's called the Physicians Practice Act. In its statement of policy, this is the why this is being created. It says the primary responsibility and obligation of the Guam Board of Medical Examiners is to protect the people of Guam. Well, I think it may have lost its primary focus. For purposes of this law, a person or the definition of the practice of medicine includes undertaking to prevent or to diagnose, correct, and or treat in any manner by any means, blah, 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 all those illnesses and stuff. Rendering determination of medical necessity or appropriateness of proposed treatment. These sort of definitions apply in this case. And then, now here is the heart of the issue with this so-called conflict of interest. See, it can only be a conflict of interest by law if it's spelled out that there's a conflict. But if the law itself creates the conflict of interest, then what can the Attorney General do? This is a matter for the Guam legislature to fix. And this has been a problem for a very long time, not just in the case of the Lubofskys and the Titlegleys, but in many, many cases where doctors have conflicts of interest when they're the ones who determine what they or their competitors must abide by in terms of rules and regulations over their own industry. In this case, thanks to Public Law 24-208, which was created by a licensed medical doctor who also happens to be a senator. I think it's pretty ironic that we're doing this story while I'm sick. The Guam Board of Medical Examiners, which makes all of the rules and regulations pertaining to the conduct of doctors and to their licensure according to Guam law or consistent with Guam law, the board is composed of 7 members. 6 of them have to be doctors licensed in Guam. So it's sort of like internal affairs at GPD, where it's like you trust that they're going to do the job because a good job and whatever. But
Because they understand their job.
yeah, but really, it's police officers policing police officers. So there's always this. The same thing with the Guam Board of Medical Examiners. Same thing with like the Guam Board of Barbering and Cosmetology, or the Guam Board of Nurses. They're all made of the very professionals who are part of that industry. And so they govern their own conduct. And you would think that as professionals they would do so with integrity and honesty, but many times they don't.
This board in particular, we all
Because
know
it's money.
George Macris,
Yes.
right? Dr.
Dr. George
Macris
Macris, yes.
chased off the island because he tried to address
These issues.
this very issue, how Guam facilitates through the law malpractitioners to come here.
Yeah.
And they chased him off island when he tried to bring that up to
I wonder
the
how
public's
Okomo
attention.
got licensed here.
Who?
Dr.
no, you're
Okomo.
telling me about
Yeah.
him. What was that? What was that guy?
Sexual assault in the States.
Well, he
Got
got a license
sued?
here because they don't have to disclose that here
Yes, they do. It's in this
Yes,
law.
they do.
It's in this law. I'll
to
show
the
you.
public. To the examiners they do, but not to the public.
Well, let's review what the law says. But before leaving this one section, it says, one of the physician board members shall be the medical director of the Guam Memorial Hospital Authority. How can the Attorney General say that there is no inherent conflict of interest if Mr. Lubofsky is suing Guam Memorial Hospital Authority? I mean, there is an inherent conflict of interest. There is also an inherent conflict of interest because Dr. Berg does the business with SDA Clinic. Of course he's not going to rule against SDA. So
That's just why they don't want to disclose how they came to their decision.
let's show everyone how, go back to the screen, Chalu, how powerful this board is. This is a very powerful governing board. It has the power to promulgate rules and regulations, and it doesn't say within the administrative adjudication law. They just have this power. They can promulgate rules and regulations at the ready. Select and administer licensing examinations. They get to select what kind, you know what I mean? Evaluate medical education and training of applicants. Evaluate previous professional performance of applicants. Issue or deny initial or endorsement licenses. Approve or deny applications for license re-registration and renewal. Receive, review, and investigate complaints. Receive, review, and investigate reports received from law enforcement agencies, healthcare organizations, governmental agencies, insurers, and other entities having information pertinent to the professional performance of licensees. This is a duty that they have. Discipline licensees found in violation of the Medical Malpractice Act. Institute actions in its own name and enjoin violators of the Medical Malpractice Act, or the Medical Practice Act, sorry. So, reinstate revoked license at its discretion, but to use such discretionary authority in a consistent manner and with great assurances that the reinstatement of a license will not jeopardize the public. Over and over, this law seems, as in its intent, to place the safety and the health of the public as its top priority. But in the nuances of this law, really all it does is it makes physicians all that more powerful. And it removes a legal conflict of interest from occurring at this Guam Medical Board of Examiners level. And that's why Robert Weinberg, or whatever his name is, said that there's no conflict of interest, which is BS. Then they have indemnity, they have immunity. What else
Under
we got here?
indemnity, I find this section F2. A member of the board shall be subject to removal when he or she is 2. Found guilty of a felony or unlawful act involving moral turpitude by a court or competent jurisdiction. In all of the rules and regulations detailed here, and this particular thing jumps up. When have you known the Guam Board of Medical Examiners to actually have done any of this? There's nothing in here that really requires them to make the public aware of anything they find out about bad doctors.
Except after an investigation. They're supposed to.
That's why they don't do an investigation.
Well, and they also, on page 10 of this, if you go to page 10, go back to the screen, Sheldon. They're supposed to have an adequate staff of investigators. I highly doubt they have that. And then, hold on. So I kind of skip over lots of the other stuff, right? They are supposed to, for the examination application that doctors are supposed to go through, number 5 says, a list of all jurisdictions, United States or foreign, in which the applicant has been denied licensure or authorization to practice medicine or has voluntarily surrendered a license or an authorization to practice medicine. a list of all sanctions, judgments, awards, blah, 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 that would constitute grounds for disciplinary action under the Medical Practice Act or the board's rules and regulations.
But where does it say they have to disclose this?
It's further down. The applicant shall be held responsible. Check this out. You know, if they had a trust but verify option like this for getting a GRT license, or what do you call that, a business license, you know how smoothly things would go? You would actually have a 1-stop rather than a 5-stop or a 13-stop. But doctors get to have a trust by verify. Trust but later verify clause. The applicant shall be held responsible for verifying to the satisfaction of the board the validity of all credentials required for his or her medical licensure. Give me a freaking break. Licensure, no, and then there are ways for this Guam Board of Medical Examiners, and mind you, many of them run their own businesses, meaning they're the heads of their own clinics. So it is to their benefit when they get to bring in a specialized doctor, right, who can provide basically a monopoly of services over, let's say there are no more urologists on the island, and Dr. Berg says, I'm going to bring in a urologist into Guam radiology or whatever. Now Dr. Berg has the market over a urologist. And what if that urologist that he wants to bring in doesn't quite meet the standards of the medical examination and all that stuff, that all of those credentials at the top of this law say are necessary? Well, this board has the option now of licensure by endorsement and temporary special licensure. Basically, the Guam Board of Medical Examiners just gets to determine who comes in and who doesn't come in. This board has vast powers. And so the kinds of what Mr. Lubofsky is saying, that we get quack doctors here, it's true. It really is, and they're allowed in by the Guam Board of Medical Examiners.
And they're certified quacks by the Board of Certified Examiners.
Yes. Endorsement for certified applicants.
Quacks.
The board is authorized at its discretion to issue a license by endorsement to an applicant who
at its
blah, blah,
discretion.
blah, blah, blah.
At its
discretion.
At its discretion.
Endorsement examination. Notwithstanding any other provisions of the Act, the board is authorized to require applicants for full and unrestricted medical licensure by endorsement who have not been formally tested by a United States or Canadian medical licensing jurisdiction, a board-approved medical certifying agency, or a board-approved medical specialty board within a specific period of time before application, ergo 8 or 10 years to pass a written and or oral medical examination approved by the board for that purpose. You can go 8 to 10 years.
Without a license, without taking that exam?
Without a bona fide license.
Wow.
Yeah. Temporary licensure. So it doesn't stop there. There's also a temporary licensure provision in this, and this has never been updated. This is, was it, did I say
1998.
20 years old?
21 years old, yeah. So, senators, if you want to do anything special and meaningful for the people of Guam, after you get on board with the Medical Malpractice Mandatory Arbitration Act repeal, you might want to look into this whole licensure thing. And yeah, doctors donate to your cause and all that stuff. Hey, but don't let that corrupt your minds, okay? Why don't you do what's right? But there's more to this. Special licensure. The board is authorized to issue conditional, restricted, or otherwise circumscribed licenses as it determines necessary. Never mind everything else. Never mind all the other standards placed into this. The board can just do that willy-nilly.
I'm getting a headache reading this. I really am. This is
crazy, right?
This is the endorsement for malpractice.
So here's the disciplinary action against licensees part. Starts on page 25 of this act. So the board can take a whole range of actions against someone who is accused of and found to be guilty of bad practice against this act. Revocation of medical license, suspension of medical license. Basically, this law has only ever been used to
against
silence
George
enemies.
Macris.
To silence enemies of those who are doctors and politically powerful. Dr. George Macris. Probation, stipulations, limitations, restrictions, and conditions relating to practice, censure, reprimand, chastisement. I don't even know what chastisement means.
Scolding.
Monetary redress to another party. a period of free public or charity service. Jesus Christ. Satisfactory completion of an educational training and or treatment program or programs. Fine and payment of disciplinary costs. Oh my goodness. Letter of concern. The board is authorized to issue a confidential letter of concern to a licensee when the board has noted indications of possible errant conduct by the licensee. Jesus. Okay. So the board is authorized to take disciplinary action for unprofessional or dishonorable contact, which should be defined to mean but not limited to the following. Conduct likely to deceive, defraud, or harm the public. Making a false or misleading statement regarding his or her skill or the efficacy or value of the medicine, treatment, or remedy prescribed by him or her or at his or her direction in the treatment of any disease or other condition of the body or mind. So, Mr. Lubofsky's complaint very specifically lays this out, as Dr. Miyagi presented false information in Asher Dean Lubofsky's medical record, that he conducted a full physical examination when Mr. Lubofsky very clearly said in his complaint that this so-called examination took 15 minutes plus or minus a few minutes. So, and part of that 15 to 20 minute period involved a period of time when Dr. Miyagi wasn't even in the room for the examination. He had gone out and then come back inside. Never picked up a stethoscope. So, based on Mr. Lubofsky's eyewitness account of what happened, it is very different from what the medical record that Dr. Miyagi finally filed and entered into the record that the Guam Board of Medical Examiners used in order to come to their decision. And despite the disparity in the information, the board still didn't see, clearly there was a false document that was entered, a false medical
false
record.
or misleading statement regarding the treatment or remedy prescribed by him.
If STA is using electronic medical records, that system will show his input while he was in the room,
and then the change,
the add-ons.
Also the time, right?
Yes.
And they are.
So
they are using. They were one of the first clinics to upgrade to the.
But listen to what the Attorney General's letter said. It said that they do not want to require the divulging of more information because of the intricacies of this entire board.
Because basically, it might help change their decision if they were to disclose to him how they got there. Then it might influence them to change their decision, not to pursue legal action.
Number 8, and this says negligence in the practice of medicine as determined by the board.
So why would it change their decision if he knew how their thought processes were, what went into their conclusions? Why would the AG be worried that might influence their ultimate outcome? Because they'd be exposed.
It's government's exposure to liability. Practice or other behavior that demonstrates an incapacity or incompetence to practice medicine. The use of any false, fraudulent, or deceptive statement in any document connected with the practice of medicine.
Here we go again.
Now, can you explain that?
Let's repeat this again. The use of any false, fraudulent, or deceptive statement in any document connected with the practice of medicine. Exactly what David Lubofsky is alleging was done.
And they based their decision on the falsified document.
Well, there's another question that this whole thing, this letter from AAG, Rob Weinberger brings up. Who told him to write that?
The board. The board asked them.
But who's he taking his instructions from? The board may ask them to
The board asked them to do it because Mr. Lubofsky already filed suit.
The board asked him to reply, but who at the AG's office told
else?
Rob
The
Weinberger what their stance would
Who's
be?
the head of the civil division?
I noticed Robert Keogh's name was down there. He was CC'd. It might be him. And, you know, I find that very interesting because Robert Keogh is one of the best attorneys
Isn't he
when it comes to injury cases. You know, if you hire, a lot of people like to hire him because he's really good
He's
at.
Mr. Lubofsky's attorney.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's why he was
And the title
CC'd.
lead. He's also the title lead.
That's why he was CC'd. So I'd really like to know what his response was. I mean, we're not lawyers. None of us up here are lawyers. And we can see the problem. Johnny has a background in records and billing. And I know what she means because I've actually done training for the transition into digital records following the Obamacare mandate. So I know what goes into that. You know, how you have to have the billings, the J codes and all that. And this line right here, though, really jumps out.
A medical record is a legal document.
Yes, it is. And for express purpose, this very express purpose, that disallows any false, fraudulent, or deceptive statement in any document that is connected to the practice of medicine. And this is exactly the point David Lubofsky is making. So I'm really, really curious how a good attorney like Rob Weinberger would write the letter the way he did in complete, I'm not going to say ignorance because I'm sure he knows it, but like disregard, in complete disregard of this law in its entirety, but of this section in particular.
Well, because, I mean, like I said, it seems that the intent of the law was to protect the public, but in the nuances of the law, it really just protects physicians.
Like you
and
said,
it uses
it's
the Guam Board of Medical
physicians
Examiners
policing
to protect-
physicians.
Yeah. Go to the next yellow part.
But you
Number
can
28.
see where there are elements that should protect the public. This is one of them. And my question just remains. Rob Weinberger has a reputation for being a very competent attorney and one of the more honest ones out there. So how could he disregard this section of the law? Completely
An
disregard
honest
it.
attorney.
Because
Yeah, I know.
Because it was the Guam
It's
Board
an
of Medical-
oxymoron, honest attorney, honest politician. But yeah, in this case, he's a
Because the
he's a
Guam Board
pretty
of
decent
Medical
guy.
Examiners deemed that no malpractice occurred. So go to the next one. Now remember, on October 30th, so on October 29, Mr. Lubofsky first brings Asher Dean to the SDA clinic. He gets that shitty-ass examination by Dr. Miyagi. On the 30th, he comes back because his boy's condition seems to be worsening. He meets up with, what's his name? The physician assistant. Gosh, I can't remember his name, but he's named in the lawsuit. And after this whole argument, Mr. Lubofsky says, you know, fuck it. I'm going to bring my son to, we have news from Congressman Nicholas. He says, you know what, I'm going to bring my son to the GMH emergency room myself. And he says, please have his records, please call up and have his records sent to GMH so that no time is wasted in his treatment. And so,
Roy.
can you cast to my screen?
When you are transferred from your clinic, that doctor needs to call the hospital to let them know the transfer of care, so there's no mishap.
And the law says this. So, the problem that we have in the case of of Asher Dean Lubofsky is those medical records weren't transferred by SDA for 3 hours.
Snyder, yeah.
What's his first name?
Ethan.
Ethan Snyder is the name of the physician's assistant. He did not transfer the records to GMH for 3 hours. That's 3 critical hours in Asher Dean Lubofsky's short life by this time. Go back to the screen.
Our nurses at the
Failure.
clinic, wait, when they have to go to the hospital, our nurse on duty, our doctor stabilizes the patient, the nurse on duty rides with the patient in the ambulance and brings the medical record with her or him. They check in at the hospital. She gives the record. She lets them know what's going down, and then someone has to go pick up that nurse. That is how it's supposed to happen.
Cello my
So
screen?
there's no liability.
Well, that sounds like a good clinic. And
That-
that sounds like what
that
SDA
doctor
didn't do.
That's
relieving.
that's
wait,
Ethan
wait,
Schneider.
guys. Listen,
That's
wait,
Ethan Snyder right there.
That's Ethan Snyder.
guys, wait. That letting Mr. Lubofsky go without if they didn't take him if SDI didn't take him to the hospital, he had to have signed a paper that says I'm going against medical advice if the patient wants to ride in their own car to the hospital. I'll tell you that much.
That's Miyagi. Shishin Miyagi.
That's Dr. Miyagi. Go back to my screen. Failure to transfer pertinent and medical necessary records to another physician in a timely fashion when legally requested to do so by the subject patient or by a legally designated representative of the subject patient. It wasn't just requested, it was demanded by Mr. Lubofsky. Upon his taking his son to the GMH emergency room because Ethan Snyder was being an asshole and because he refused to have Asher Dean Lubofsky seen by a doctor there. Refused. Improper management of medical records, number 29. I mean, all of these violations, violation of any provision of the Medical Malpractice Act or the rules and regulations of the board or of an action, stipulation, or agreement of the board, failure to follow generally accepted infection control procedures. This, I'm sure, applies in the Tidegly case. I'm sure it does. So here are the procedures for enforcement and disciplinary action. The board is empowered to commence legal action to enforce the provisions of the Medical Malpractice Act and to exercise full discretion and authority with respect to disciplinary actions. The legislature has granted this board immense police powers. This is perhaps the most powerful governing board on this island.
Well, that was the legislature 21 years ago, right? So it's time for the new legislature to actually update things.
In the exercise of its power, the board's investigative and judicial functions are to assure fairness, and the board should be required to act in a consistent manner in the application of disciplinary sanctions. Now, this is what's very important in this case, okay? The procedural provisions should provide for investigation of charges by the board, notice of charges to the accused, an opportunity for a fair and impartial hearing for the accused before the board or its examining committee, an opportunity for representation of the accused by counsel, the presentation of testimony, evidence, and argument, subpoena power and attendance of witnesses, a record of proceedings and judicial review by the courts in accordance with the standards established by the jurisdiction for such review. Now, so that all sounds like legit stuff, right? They are given a quasi-judicial function. This is a very powerful board. The board should be authorized to use preponderance of the evidence as the standard of proof in its role as trier of fact. This is a very important distinction. What does preponderance of the evidence mean? So, can we cast to Romeo's screen so that I can go to the preponderance of evidence? Oh, I'm sorry. No, cast to my screen now because I have it now. Sorry. According to Cornell law, preponderance of the evidence is one type of evidentiary standard used in a burden of proof analysis. Under the preponderance standard, the burden of proof is met when the party with the burden convinces the fact finder that there is a greater than 50% chance that the claim is true. This is the burden of proof in a civil trial. So, a 50% chance that it's true. This is a low burden of proof. Mm-hmm. It's in a civil. It's not like in a criminal trial setting where it's what is it called?
Beyond a reasonable doubt.
Beyond a reasonable doubt, and I don't know what that's called legally or whatever. But
beyond reasonable doubt. That's actually what it is.
So this is probably a lower standard of evidence than what.
Just like the Civil Service Commission.
No, it's not lower. It's balanced. It's 50-50. If there's, in other words, if there's a chance of this being right, that's not like an extremely small chance or an extremely large chance. It's like right in the middle, 50-50.
So the question is, if this was the standard of proof, how in the hell did Dr. Shishin Miyagi get away with it?
Like I said, there are a lot of questions that really come to the fore on this. We know how he got away with it over at the clinic.
We need to know if they actually did the investigation.
No, they
That's
didn't.
another thing.
If it was, what's his name? Berg in charge. No, that's a shyster right there.
And hopefully, when this goes to court, it's going to show.
Hey, isn't that shyster Berg partners with your friend Roy Adonai?
That's not my friend.
But like they're partners over there in the radiology clinic.
I don't know.
I never liked that guy.
But yeah, so the question isn't so much how he Miyagi and Snyder got away with this, and we know how they got away with
And
it.
then
We've
the people
seen
covering
the
it up.
Guam Board of Medical Examiners let them get away with it.
Mm-hmm.
The question is, at this point now, since it's gone to the AG's office, and now the AG's office has engaged, how is the AG's office letting them get away with this? Because it is clearly at least
By this law.
Exactly.
the own law.
By this law.
One
Exactly.
section alone, one sentence alone, makes it a conflict of interest.
Well, the legislature giveth, and the legislature can take it away.
Yeah, and if
This
they
is the legislature's
so let's say the
fault.
legislature does come in and they do change the law, that's not really going to help David
The
Lubofsky
Lubofskys
or
or
the
the
Titleguis
Titleguis,
right
no.
now, or the other families
Or the Caderas.
that Lubofsky has been communicating with, him, starting to come out. The women just last year, 2017, 2018, the C-section cases. My question
Or they
is,
left something open, one of her intestines or something was broken, and they sewed her up, and then
Poor
it
thing.
leaked out. Oh my God!
but the thing is, even if the law is changed, it will not address the issue at hand raised by Rob Weinberger's letter, his response. Who told him to do it, and how did they make that decision to let them get away with something that is clearly against the law? The lawmakers tomorrow may change the law, but the people engaged right now in covering this up are going to get away with it. I'm just kind of getting sick of everybody always getting away with shit.
Yep. Here's another thing. They get to have informal conferences. Go ahead and cast back to my screen.
In other words, secrets.
Yeah. Notwithstanding any provision of the law, they always love that line.
Yeah, no
The
open
board is
government.
authorized at its discretion to meet an informal conference with an accused licensee who seeks or agrees to such a conference. Meaning everything's done in secret. And they get that's notwithstanding the open government law. Cease and desist orders and injunctions. The board is authorized to issue a cease and desist order. Board action reports. This is the part you were asking about. All the board's final disciplinary actions and license denials, including related findings of fact and conclusions of law, shall be matters of public record. Such actions and denials shall be promptly reported to the Board Action Data Bank of the Federation of State Medical Boards of the United States within 30 days of the action being taken, to any other data repository required by law, and to the media. I think that was it. Oh, no, sorry, here. Compulsory reporting and investigation. Any person shall be permitted to report to the board in writing any information he or she has reason to believe indicates unprofessional conduct. Just for purposes of this case, right? The following shall be required to report to the board promptly and in writing any information that indicates a licensee is guilty of unprofessional conduct. All physicians licensed under the Act. So, where were all the SDA doctors in reporting this misconduct? All licensed healthcare professionals, again, where were the nurses, doctors, and physicians assistants at SDA?
Being threatened
and
with
at
their
GMH,
jobs.
And at GMH.
But they do have some good nurses at GMH, but I also know they're very intimidated by their superiors and the doctors over there.
The State Medical Association and its components, all hospitals and other healthcare institutions in Guam, to include hospitals, clinics, managed care organizations, etc., all government with services involving healthcare activities. Lots of people had a duty and an obligation to report what had happened to Asher Dean Lubofsky and did not report it. And they waited for Mr. Lubofsky to file. They're not even waiting. They're all trying to cover it up. That's what's going on. They're all trying to hide the shit that they did against that ended with this boy's life. Licenses.
Do we know? I mean, who are the Guam Board of Medical Examiners? Do we know off the top of our head who they are?
Well, one is Dr. Berg, who's the chair. Dr. Annie Bordallo is the medical director of the hospital. Is on the board. There's one public member who is not supposed to be a physician. I don't know who that is. So now we're looking at 5 others who are doctors. They all have to be
I
doctors.
wonder if
licensed.
Dr. Eusebio is on that board.
I know he used to be the chairman.
Yeah.
Licensees not covered by malpractice insurance carriers shall be required to file the same information with the board regarding themselves. All such reports shall be made. I wonder if these reports of impropriety were ever filed by Dr. Shishin Miyagi. Upon receiving reports concerning a licensee or on its own motion, The board shall be permitted to investigate any evidence that appears to show a licensee is guilty of unprofessional conduct. I mean, this is... Every communication made by or on behalf of any person, institution, agency, or organization to the board or to any blah, 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 relating to an investigation or the initiation of an investigation, whether by way of report, complaint, or statement, shall be privileged. This is the part where Attorney Weinberg... Weinberg?
Mm-hmm. Weinberger.
This is probably the part of the whole thing where he's telling to Mr. Lubofsky that he not only can he not divulge it, but he's not even going to ask because of this protected communication. No action or proceeding, civil or criminal, shall be permitted against any such person, institution, agency, or organization by whom or on whose behalf such a communication was made in good faith.
Yeah, that's a nice pamper on the doctor's ass they gave him 21 years ago.
There's just so much. Anyway, so the law itself has permitted this to happen. These responses to Mr. Lubofsky, this whole, we're not going to hold Dr. Shishin Miyagi and Ethan Snyder accountable charade made possible
and it's
by your
not,
Guam
like you said, though,
legislature.
it's not even just those two. Those two had a hand in this boy's death, but how many other doctors and healthcare professionals at the SDA clinic, at GMH, on the Board of Medical Examiners also share in culpability for the cover-up and the lack of due diligence on their part in reporting as is required by law.
No. Yep.
So
It's so sad. And hopefully senators change things. Of course, like you said, it's not going to change what happened in the Lubofsky case. It's not going to affect the Tidegui case. But as Mr. Lubofsky and the Tideguis are trying to do, they're trying to make changes not because they can ever bring their children back from the dead, because they don't want to ever see another child suffer like this. Mm-hmm. That's why they're doing this. And so that is part of our advocacy. We're advocating for them. Like, we're behind you 150%, you guys.
oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
I don't have anything else to say about
Well, actually, this story with David Lubofsky and poor Asher always kind of brings me down. And, tonight's my Sabbath, and I don't want to leave out on a note like this. And I don't think we want to leave our viewers on such a down note. It's just the challenge that we have to face, and we have to work toward changing. Mm-hmm. And I want to call out the Attorney General's office right now because I have my suspicions. I don't see Rob Weinberger doing this on his own volition. There had to be some direction, and why is that direction coming in that way? But that said, while you were reading through this law, mm-hmm. we received a message from the congressman. Go to your WhatsApp. I think you see if you can share that picture. I don't have one of those fancy new phones, so I can't swipe and throw it over there. But
oh, here we go. Let me download.
Yeah, this is a really great message over here. So apparently, our hearts are with you, David Lubofsky, and your family, and with the Tideguis. But we're going to go to a more positive news story. Guam congressman visits Guam soldiers at Al Udeid Air Force Base in Qatar. So our congressman is in the Middle East visiting some of our service members. Congressman San Nicolas wants to let the Trelahi, Pineda, Rivera, Patricio, and Carbolito families know that your sons and daughters and your loved ones are safe, smiling, and strong, serving their country in the Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar.
Very
and
cool.
Here we see a picture of those handsome young men and women looking like in his fatigues.
No, that's an
Island
Island
Prince
I know.
shirt.
I thought it was fatigues too.
I thought it was fatigues. See, even with glasses, right? During the August recess, the financial services received top secret and classified briefings overseas on AFRICOM, EUCOM, and CENTCOM, and he was able to have lunch with some of the troops over there. It was so nice to share stories, he says, of home and exchange words of encouragement with our soldiers. Congressman added that he was asked what he added, I was asked, what can our families do to help support you? And he replied to them, just have them take care of you because you're taking care of all of us. Oh, isn't that nice? So a special message from a dad to his son. Congressman San Nicolas shares, Xavier, your daddy can't wait to meet you and is hoping to be there in time for your first Christmas.
Aw.
Oh, that's cool. So apparently one of these fellas here is a new daddy.
Or baby on the way.
Thank you so much for your service.
Yeah.
His first Christmas. So either this kid is new or he's going to be coming out around
And his
Christmas.
dad hasn't met him yet.
And that's a photograph of some of the service members.
So one of them is the lucky dad.
Yes.
Oh no, well actually maybe not. It could be just someone who he met who's not in the picture.
He says a special message from a dad to his son. Yeah, you're right. He might not even be in that photograph. But whoever it is, congratulations on the new kid, and hope to see you at home on Christmas. And
thank you
wish
for
you
your
all
service.
Yes, thank you for your service. You can cast off my screen now, Charlie.
So that's a good news story for the end of the night. And we just got that in, so you know.
That's very nice.
Wow. Okay. So you might want to go through some comments real quick before we
let's
get
do
out of
that.
here. There's a message that I promised to share with you. I got in reference to you giving credit to the current board at the port, along with Rory, the new GM.
Mm-hmm.
We have a follower who says, "Excuse me, the current board." I don't think they're very big fans of the current board.
Okay, maybe not the current.
Actually, they said lame asses. And
Just one of them.
then another message is, you know what burned me up was remembering that Joe Man the Jabba was out for nearly a month, her first 2 months on the job, because of her father's death. Then she got a raise when she came back. And then another person says, Joe Man took a lot of trips when she was GM.
Yeah, she did. I mean the swim between the Western Pacific and the western coast of the United States.
I wonder if they paid her
where
mileage.
she was home ported.
Or she paid for a whole row on the plane.
That way, well, no plane.
With the
Flying
raises she
aquariums?
was getting and whatever, she could pay for the whole row on the plane.
She was swimming.
The whole row.
It's a heavy plane. The pilot's probably like, "Oh shit!"
I'm doing those big transporters.
Any more comments?
Yes, David Lubofsky says, Snyder refused to let us see a doctor at SDA and refused to check his records. Never told me how sick Asher was. I asked for a referral to the hospital, and Snyder said he will call. GMH is 4 minutes away, and when they told me an ambulance takes 30 minutes to get there, but wouldn't let Asher see a doctor, finally enough, and I left. I remember that part of the story. Half an hour to get an ambulance from SDA to GMH, literally right down the road.
That guy didn't want to wait for an ambulance to come.
For the viewers who want to, our viewers go through the comments as much as we do. You can read David Lubofsky's comments on this, and
no full physical. It takes 20 minutes to get from the when you get weighed and your blood pressure and all that into the doctor's room. It takes 20 minutes for that.
Yeah. Joseph Tidegui writes, that might be one of the reasons why we go to St. Luke's and PI for medical checkups, because we have crack doctors practicing in Guam.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people tuning in. Richard Wittenbach Santos just woke up.
Hi, Doc.
His last day in Portland. He's flying on to Houston to move into a large house in the western suburb of Katy. I guess he wants you and your viewers to know his phone number and email will stay unchanged.
Thanks, Doc.
Well, happy trails, Doc. And thank you for following Candid News.
I love what Shelley says.
Shelley Gibson, huge karmic debts. They say payback's a bitch. Yeah, so is Joe Man Brown. I'm going to give that a nice big heart.
There's an appropriate song for the theme of tonight's show, which is really the theme of many of tonight's shows, and it's about greed and the almighty dollar. Little Mampus Pat said they're all greedy.
Hey, she's Christian. She's a Christian.
She said that she's a Christian, but don't believe her because she's a bullshit. She's a bullshit, Pat. Bullshit.
Okay, Coconut Man,
I want to bob my head and dance, but I'm going to get the laughs.
Go ahead, Troy.
Coconut man?
Who?
Who's the coconut man? Who is this?
It's Jessie J. She's British, not Jamaican.
So serious. Damn mysterious.
You know you want to.
Oh, I'm deciding what I'm going to do next.
Time. Everybody look to the right.
Well, you're going to get a cut.
Playing with love tonight.
Good night, Guam. We love you.
Love you.